Your brain is sabotaging your poker game right now. Not sometimes, every session. And the worst part? It feels like good judgment. 3 hours in, you are locked in. You have been reading this table better than anyone at it. A player who overfolds to river pressure opens his door one more time. You have the perfect hand. You have the math. You have the read. You fire. He calls. He shows something he had no business calling with. And you sit there, not angry at him. Angry at something you cannot name. Because the process was right. The logic was right. You did everything the way you studied it. And it still did not work. Be honest. You have been here before. And every time it happens, something shifts. A small crack forms. Not in your strategy. In your belief that the strategy works. And that crack is where losing players live permanently. That is where we are starting today. Here is the truth this entire video is built on. Poker does not test your knowledge. It tests what survives when your knowledge meets pressure. Those are not the same thing. And spending your career confusing them is the most expensive mistake in this game. More expensive than any bad beat. More expensive than any tilt spiral. Because it is invisible. It hides behind the appearance of studying hard and playing seriously. Every player at mid-stakes knows enough to win. The solvers are public. The ranges are charted. The strategy is not a secret. And yet, most players who know the right play do not make the right play. Not when the pot is large. Not when someone is staring at them across the felt. Not when a brutal session is pressing down on every decision like a hand around the throat. The gap is not knowledge. It never was. The gap is architecture. The internal structure that holds your thinking together when everything around you is designed to collapse it. Let me show you what is happening inside your head when you are in a hard spot. Not conceptually, neurologically. Your brain is not a poker machine. It is a 200,000-year-old survival engine with one directive. Not to win, not to maximize EV, to avoid loss. Daniel Kahneman proved it. The pain of losing registers at twice the intensity of an equivalent gain. This is not a mindset issue. This is not tilt. This is biology. And it is running underneath every decision you make at the table, whether you feel it or not. This is where the money disappears. When you are deep in a hand, uncertain, pot committed, someone firing at you, your brain is not calculating the highest EV play. It is calculating what action ends the discomfort fastest. Those are different questions. And the more pressure builds, the louder the wrong one gets. The call you should not make. You make it, because calling ends the uncertainty. The bet you should fire. You check, because checking feels like control. The bluff the math supports. You abandon it, because your hands are cold and something ancient inside you is screaming danger. You are already paying for this. Every session. You just cannot see the line item. There are two systems running inside you at every moment. System 1, fast, emotional, automatic. It produces feelings that arrive dressed as conclusions. System 2, slow, analytical, deliberate. This is where your study lives, your logic, your range work. Under low pressure, System 2 leads. Under high pressure, System 1 takes over. And System 2 becomes a passenger, watching, sometimes objecting, no longer in control. This is called cognitive override. Your analytical brain produces the correct answer. Your emotional brain replaces it with a feeling, and you act on the feeling. And here is what makes it lethal. It does not feel like an override. It feels like a read. It feels like experience. It feels like hard-earned wisdom. You cannot defend against an enemy that wears your own face. Let me make this concrete. A scenario most players have lived. You are 150 big blinds deep in a live cash game. You open ace-queen from middle position. A player you have tracked all session. Tight, disciplined, never showed a weak hand. 3 bets from the cutoff. You call. Flop comes queen 7-2 rainbow. Top pair, top kicker. You check. He bets 60%. You call. Turn is the king. Stop. Your emotional system sees top pair and broadcasts. I am not folding. I have money in this pot. He could be bluffing. Your analytical system, if you give it 5 seconds, sees something completely different. His 3-betting range from cutoff against a middle position open is loaded with exactly the hands that king just elevated. King-king is now top set. Ace-king has you dominated. King-Queen just made 2 pair. His sizing increase on the turn is the pattern strong players use to protect value, not to bluff. Your Ace-Queen just became a bluff catcher in a spot where his range is crushing yours. The structural answer is a fold. The emotional answer is a call. And with real money in the middle and a human being watching, the emotional answer speaks first, speaks loudest, and usually wins. This is not a one-time mistake. This is a pattern, running silently through your sessions, compounding quietly into results that look like bad luck and are actually bad architecture. I have watched players lose entire bankrolls in spots exactly like this, not because they did not know the right play, because in the moment, under pressure, with money on the line, they could not execute it. The knowledge was there, the structure was not. Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer honestly. When was the last time you reviewed a session not for the hands you played wrong, but for the exact moment your thinking broke down? Most players never do this. They study forward, new concepts, new frameworks, more information stacked on top of existing information. What actually separates the players who improve from the players who plateau is studying backward, finding the crack. The specific moment the structure failed. There is a moment in almost every difficult session, when the pot is largest, the decision hardest, the session already badly damaged, where your thinking does not just make a wrong choice, it degrades. It drops below the level you trained it to operate at, and you execute from somewhere older, faster, and far less reliable. That moment is worth more than any solver session. Jared Tendler called this the Inchworm Principle. Study raises your ceiling, but if your floor stays where it was, if your worst play under pressure is still the same play from 2 years ago, your average result does not move, because the floor is where your real money is decided, not the ceiling. Most players invest everything in the ceiling and ignore the floor. The work was real. It went to the wrong place. Find the floor. That is where the game is actually won. One more concept. Then the insight you came here for. Most players treat uncertainty as a problem to eliminate. When the read is unclear, they manufacture one. They compress honest probability into a single story, because sitting inside genuine uncertainty is uncomfortable. Here is why that is biological. Your brain burns more energy maintaining an open state of uncertainty than collapsing to any conclusion, even a wrong one. It is more efficient for your brain to be confidently wrong than genuinely uncertain, so it pushes you toward closure, toward a narrative. And most players spend their entire careers mistaking that closing impulse for intuition. Jonathan Duhamel did not win a World Series bracelet because he ran better. He won because he could hold uncertainty longer than the people across from him, and make decisions inside genuine ambiguity without manufacturing false certainty. That is not a poker skill. It is a cognitive skill that produces elite poker results. Before any significant decision, one question. Am I about to act on information or on the relief of ending my uncertainty? If it is the second, pause. 5 seconds. Let the collapse impulse pass. Then act on the range. 5 seconds. It costs nothing. Over a career, it decides everything. Here is the insight. Poker does not test your knowledge. It tests what survives under pressure. You already know enough to win. That is not the problem. The problem is, what happens to that knowledge when the pot is $600, someone is staring at you, the last 3 hands went wrong, and your brain is doing everything in its biological power to make you act fast, feel safe, and end the discomfort. In that moment, what survives? Not what do you know. What survives? The players who win consistently are not the most educated. They are the most structurally sound. They built an internal architecture that holds when pressure arrives, not because they feel no pressure, but because they trained the structure that operates beneath it, in the space between emotion and action, where the real decision is made. That space, between stimulus and response, is where the grinder's mind lives. And it can be built, deliberately, with the right system. And everything in this video, the biology, the override, the floor, the levels, the uncertainty, this is not separate content. It is one system seen from different angles, and that system exists in written form, in depth, built specifically for players who are done studying fragments and ready to build the real architecture. The The Mind of a Grinder Complete Collection is 10 ebooks, not 10 lists of tips. 10 components of a single cognitive system. The mental architecture behind consistent winning poker. Tilt psychology, decision frameworks, thinking level identification. Pre-session calibration, the mental game that holds when pressure arrives and everything else fails. Here is what I need you to understand. The gap this video described, the space between what you know and what you execute under pressure. That gap has been costing you money every week. It has a name now. And this collection closes it. Systematically, chapter by chapter, with hand examples and frameworks built for execution, not inspiration. This is not a product. It is the system behind everything you just learned. Launch pricing is $29.90, less than one buy-in, less than what one collapsed decision in a big pot costs you on a random Tuesday. And something I want you to hear directly. We are launching Collection 2. Every person who purchased Collection 1 is receiving the first ebook of Collection 2, delivered to their email, free, no action required, already being sent. Because this is not a content channel, it is a system, and the people who invested in Collection 1 are inside it. The price does not have a countdown. No fake timer. But when Collection 2 launches as a full package, the structure changes. Collection 1 at this price closes. That is not a warning. It is just how launches work. The link is in the pinned comment. The decision, as always, is yours. One practice. Starting tonight. Open your last session. Do not look for the hands you played wrong. Look for the moment your thinking collapsed. The moment fear put on the mask of a red. The moment you chased certainty instead of sitting inside the range. The moment the floor dropped, and you did not even feel it happening. Find that moment. Name it. Build from there. Not more solver hours. Not more charts. Build the structure that makes everything you already know survive contact with pressure. That is how this game is won. Not from the ceiling down, from the floor up. The grind is not the cards, it is who you become between them.